The three men stood around the table, studying the plan. "So are you saying that we should use locomotives as a viable form of war construct?" asked one man. "Yes, why not? They are strong, efficient, and fairly cheap." The E2s are prone to failure, however. But with the extended side tanks, water usage will not be as extravagant. "I see, but I saw one working near the docks." "Which one?" "Number 1, sir." As the men pondered at the engine, the number 1 engine himself puffed away with his load of cargo, bound for the long adventure ahead. Number 1 and all his teammates drove valiantly through the yard, transporting important goods for the war. "How long till this is over?" they sighed. "Only for the rest of the day," answered another. This was number 1. Suddenly, the yard manager walked out of his office. "Where is number 1?" he yelled out. "I'm right here, sir," he answered. "Your crew have disappeared again," the manager said. "They've taken a boat to a tiny island off the coast of England. God only knows why." "Sir," one of the engines said, "his crew is extremely untrustworthy and deserve to be fired. My crew agree." Number 1 felt awkward. The yard manager spoke. "I'm hiring replacements for you, number 1, but for now, Robert Billington and Lawson Marsh are fired from the south coast." And with that, he walked back to his office to make arrangements. Well, number 1, what do you think of your crew?" "I'm sure they're just having a short break." A few days later, there was a ringing in the yard manager's office. "Hello?" he answered. "Hello, is this John Knight?" "Yes, it is. What do you want?" "There are 2 men operating one of your locomotives into the docks." The yard manager hung up and drove his car as fast as he could to the docks. Once he was there, he found he was too late. A ship with number 1 on it was leaving the docks, and there, up on the top, was his old crew. "Just think, Lawson, we'll be able to see Evelyn and Louise again." Lawson was very excited and jumped for joy. "Who are Evelyn and Louise?" asked number 1. Just some friends," they both said. "Right," said number 1 nervously. Later, the boat arrived at an island. Number 1 was loaded off at the docks on the island and waited there until the managers there could come. This island had a railway, very much like England. "Where in England are we?" asked number 1. "Our new home," said his crew. Number 1 and his crew overlooked the ocean, admiring the sights and sounds of the Big Blue, and in the distance their old home, England, could be seen. "There's England," said his driver. "Now you know how big of a change this is." Number 1 was intrigued by this fact. England had been his home for 2 years, and now he may never have gone back. The trio reached the main yard, where the big station was being built. "What are we doing here?" asked number 1. "We're here to meet the director of the railway." As he said this, the office door opened in the platform next to them. There was the director. Robert and Lawson walked over and each shook his hand. "It's good to see you again," the director said. "Again?" said number 1. "You mean you've met him before?" "Yes, many times. He's offered a large sum of money for the purchase of you, young boy." "Really? Well, does the South Coast know?" "That's where it gets a bit dangerous. You see, as far as they know, we just stole an engine from their railway." "They'll be tracking you down," said the director. "We're in the middle of a war," said Robert. "They've got better things to worry about." And indeed they did. People were going nuts at the old railway. Ammunition trains were left all over the place, as engines damaged during the war were unable to pull any trains. "Number 1 has been stolen. Trains cannot run according to plan," the yard manager phoned to the railway director. "Well, find him then and get him back to work," yelled the director. "An English soldier's life is lost every minute ammunition is delayed." The yard manager hung up and began writing down notes. Meanwhile, number one was working on the Island Railway. It was extremely more simple than England, and him being the only locomotive in full working order, he felt like he owned the line. Number one was soon able to meet the other engines. These were called the coffee pots. These were two little engines designed by the director himself. Looking at their strange appearance, he realised why their name fit them so well. "My name's Wilbert," said one, "and I'm Thomas. We've been working on this line since 1908, exclaimed Thomas. Then he suddenly coughed up something dirty. "Sorry about that." "What the hell is that?" asked number one. "Beg your pardon," said Wilbert to Thomas. "Sometimes we just have to hold it in. Our systems aren't as good as some of your modern engines." "That's all right," said number one. "All engines have one technical difficulty or another." "I see," said Thomas. Later, as number one was working near the area known as Tidmouth, he saw a large engine sitting in one of the sheds. He was bigger than the coffee pots in number one, even bearing a tender. The engine, however, was not happy looking. He had dust and cobwebs all over him, and his wheels were clearly starting to bond with the track. His face showed a side of him that wasn't the happy, curious engine that number one was. Number one tried to ignore him and move on. Later, he and the director were talking. "Say, number one, have you ever had a name?" "No, sir, I don't believe I have," number one responded. "What was the name of that coffee pot you were talking to at the yard?" "I don't remember their name, sir, but I remember one was called Thomas, after your son, sir." "Indeed, number one," said the director. "Thomas is my son, and in the few weeks you've been working here, I have come to treating you as a son to this railway, the new innovation for the island. What do you say, Thomas?" Number one considered this for a moment. "Yes, sir, I'd like that. Thomas, the tank engine."